Hi everybody, hope you had a good weekend. I'm going to start off by having you take some notes. So if you could try to maybe arrange the screen with another window next to it so that you can do this. I think we did this last year too in Spanish. So the first thing I want to do is review some of the things that you covered on Friday, which was about what happens when something goes wrong with your program. One of the things that you learned that helps is to use a lot of documentation, a lot of comments. So obviously we'll have our comment section at the beginning of an Earsketch script because that's part of the layout of it, but also throughout the program itself we'll put in more comments that describe what things do so that when things go wrong it's easier to go back and try to troubleshoot. So I thought that we had already covered these things with syntax error, runtime error, and logic error. But when I went back through our notes from earlier this year, and I mean through Adhesive obviously, not Earsketch, I couldn't find them. So we're going to put those in our notes today. And the first thing we're going to talk about is a syntax error. And this is usually your more common problem that you're going to find when we're programming, whether we're in Earsketch or whether we're in Adhesive or in some other programming environment in Python or even in other programming languages too. So a syntax error is one that occurs when there's some sort of a typo. It could be a misspelled command, a misspelled variable name. It could be some sort of missing symbol. So that would be where maybe we're forgetting a parentheses mark. Maybe we're forgetting a quotation mark. Okay, so you get the idea. So usually when you make a mistake, it's a syntax error. They're also the easiest ones to try to fix too because they stand out when you look at them. Okay, but sometimes, and this has happened to you before, I'm sure each one of you has also experienced a runtime error this year. A runtime error is when your program is trying to do something that it can't do. So usually this happens when we're dealing with types, data types of variables. So for example, maybe you're trying to, let's see, perform a calculation with a string. Okay, we know we can't do that, right? We'd have to convert it. Maybe we're trying to print an integer or a float without converting it to a string. Okay, those are runtime errors, and those are pretty common in Python too. And then the last one is a logic error. And a logic error is the one that's the most difficult to try to solve because with a logic error, you might not have something wrong with your program. And when I say wrong, obviously there is something wrong. But what I mean is your program might run without producing an error message, but it's not running the way that you'd like to. Okay, so logic error, program, let's say, may run without being interrupted by error message, but something is wrong with it. Okay, so maybe, for example, I should probably give you an example here. The program maybe adds numbers instead of subtracting them. Another example of a logic error would be when we learned for loops, and remember how sometimes you can accidentally end up with what we call an off by one error. So maybe the program runs, but it doesn't give you the results that you're looking for. Maybe I should throw that in there too. I'll just say produces unexpected results. Oops. Okay. So that's it from what you should have covered on Friday. And then today you're going to be moving on to section 5.4. And for this, you're going to start using a function in Etch that's called setEffect. But at the same time, it's going to be using a function called fitMedia. And you have seen the fitMedia function so far in some of the Etch scripts that you've been given that you have to alter a little bit. So I'm just going to have you put a little bit in your notes about these, just so that you have the, I guess I'll just call it the skeleton of them. So I'm going to jump ahead to this, and let me just move this up here. Okay, so first I'm going to back up to the fitMedia function. And remember that functions are your built-in commands that we use in a programming language, and this is part of Etch's API. Okay, so if you were in Adhesive and you tried to run the fitMedia command, the function, it's not going to work for you. So what's the purpose of fitMedia? Like I said, it's already been in some examples that you've used so far, but the purpose of it is to arrange your audio clips in Etch. And when we deal with functions, remember, we always know it's a function because it has a set of parentheses at the end of it. And inside those parentheses, that's where we're going to pass in our parameters, our values. And different functions have different types of parameters. The fitMedia function has 4 different parameters, okay? And you always have to put them in the proper order too. So the fitMedia function, let me do this. With the fitMedia function, the first parameter that we're going to put in, oh, sorry. Oopsie, let me go back to that. There we go. With the fitMedia function, the first parameter that we're going to put in is going to represent the clip name. Okay, so whatever audio clip the name of it is. Now, because it's a name, when we think about the different data types that we've used this year, this one's going to be a string. This is what we call, when we put this in, it's going to be a constant. This is not the thing, we won't change the value of it or anything like that. So remember, I'm pretty sure we've talked about this in here, constants are going to be represented in all capital letters. That's why you see those clip names in all caps. Okay, the second parameter that we're going to put in is going to be the track number. Okay, and that's going to be just an integer. 1, 2, 3, whatever it might be. So it'll always be an integer. And then we have the third parameter, which is start measure. So this is where we're going to choose our beginning point in the track number. Okay, so maybe we don't want to play the entire thing, we just want to play a short clip of it. Start measure. Okay, this is actually going to be a float. My example doesn't show it as a float here, but it definitely is a float because it could be a decimal number. And then the last parameter is going to be end measure, and that's just the stopping point. And again, that's going to be a float, okay? So that can handle decimal numbers. So I have an example here that I actually copied right from one of the Etch scripts in one of our lessons. So I've got fitMedia, and then my first parameter right here, again, all capital letters. That's representing the clip name, comma, because we always put commas between our parameters. This number 3 represents the track number. This number 5 represents the start measure. And then the last parameter, number 6, is the end measure. Okay, so that's fitMedia. Now today's lesson is going to focus on setEffect. So you can learn how to do things like delaying your audio clip or distorting your audio clip. So I'm going to scroll down to this one. And maybe I'll scooch this up. Okay, so setEffect. So the purpose of this is to just add an effect to a digital clip, okay? So fitMedia, we need to bring that clip in. setEffect is when we want to change it. So this one is also going to have 4 parameters in the function. So we'll be putting 4 things inside that set of parentheses. We'll be putting commas in between them. Okay, so what we're going to put in this particular one, the first thing we're going to include is the track number. And just like in the fitMedia function, this is going to be an integer. The second one is going to be the effect name. For example, delay. And that's going to be a string. The third thing is going to be what we call the effect parameter. This is the setting that we're going to apply to the effect. It's also going to be a string. So in the example that I copied from somewhere in Earsketch, we've got track 2. The effect name is going to be delay. The effect parameter, or the setting for it, is going to be delay time. And then the last thing that we do is the effect value, which is a floating point number. In this case, it's 500. So that number is always going to be something within a range, and it depends on the type of effect. So 500 might not be a correct value to apply to another type of effect, but when we're dealing with delay, we can, okay? And you'll see that as you go along. Okay, so hopefully you're still listening to me. What you're going to do today is you're going to share your notes with me, okay? And I'll put that as a separate assignment on Schoology. And then you will complete 5.4 on adhesive. And don't forget, when you get to the questions, that's where you know it's time to go back to adhesive. So you do not have to answer the questions in Earsketch. You will answer the questions in adhesive. If you have any questions at all, please send me an email and I'll try to help you. And otherwise, I will see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.